You're born in a hole in the ground that your mom and dad dug out together. They did a solid job, hidden, sheltered, and far away from anything that might want to eat you. You're part of a litter of 4 pups, all equally blind, deaf, and frankly not very useful for the first 2 weeks. Your mom is your entire world. She looks after you, cleans you, and guards you while your dad hunts and patrols the area. This all happens while you just sleep and eat all day. The only action is the occasional fight with your siblings when someone takes the best spot at feeding time. But let's look at the positives here. You're growing fast, and soon enough, things will start to get interesting. At 3 weeks old, mom decides it's time for you to see the world. She nudges you out of the den, and you walk forward, your legs barely cooperating. Your siblings tumble after you, all of you tripping over each other in the process. Mom keeps a sharp eye on you, staying just close enough to bark softly whenever someone strays too far. One sibling ignores her and tries to wander off. Mom steps in, picks them up by the scruff, and drops them back with the rest of you. You all explore, sniffing everything in sight. One sibling pounces on a leaf, another accidentally flips onto their back, trying to scratch an itch. Then you find a bug. It twitches, and that's it. Game on. Everyone takes turns chasing it, swatting it, and eventually tasting it. It did not taste that good. After a while, mom nudges you all back toward the den. Someone resists, and she gives them a stern shove back inside. You collapse, too tired to do anything else. At 6 weeks old, the milk bar is officially closed. Mom and dad start bringing back real food to the den. One day it's a mouse, the next it's a bird, and occasionally a chunk of something bigger they've caught. They drop it in front of you, but let's be honest. You and your siblings have no idea what to do with it. You sniff it cautiously. One sibling pokes it with a paw. Another tries to bite it, only to spit it back out immediately. Eventually, someone figures out which end is edible, and chaos erupts as everyone dives in at once. Sometimes mom tears the food into smaller pieces, making it easier to eat. Other times, she doesn't bother, leaving you to work it out yourselves. This is your first lesson in survival. Food doesn't come easy, and if you want your share, you'd better act fast. By the end of the week, you've stopped treating food like it's a puzzle and started devouring it as soon as it hits the ground. At 3 months old, it's time for your first hunting trip. Mom and dad lead the way, and you and your siblings follows close behind. You're not here to hunt yet. You're here to watch and learn. When you reach the hunting grounds, mom signals for you to stop. You watch as she focuses on a squirrel sitting at the base of a tree. Your dad circles around, moving quietly through the grass. You're frozen in place as he walks closer, every step perfectly calculated. Then, in a flash, he jumps at the squirrel. The squirrel bolts for the tree, but dad is faster, pinning it to the ground just before it escapes. Mom signals you and your siblings to come closer. You cautiously approach the catch, sniffing it and nudging it with your nose. It's the first time you've been this close to live prey, and it's both exciting and overwhelming. Mom doesn't let you eat yet. Instead, she demonstrates how to handle it. She grips the squirrel in her jaws and shakes it, just to make sure it's completely still. Then she begins to break it apart, showing you the most efficient way to get to the good bits. You watch closely, taking mental notes. But the real test comes next. Mom spots another squirrel further away and leads you to a better position. This time, she drops back and lets you and your siblings try. You crouch low, trying your best to stay quiet. Then, your sibling behind you accidentally makes a sound. The squirrel bolts up the tree before anyone even gets close. Mom doesn't look impressed, but she doesn't give up on you either. She leads you to a different spot. By the end of the day, you're exhausted. You didn't catch anything, but you're starting to understand how it's done. For now, you're just the apprentice, but one day you'll be the one leading the hunt, if you survive. At 6 months old, life with the family starts to feel different. The food mom and dad bring back doesn't seem to stretch as far as it used to. You've been going to sleep hungry more often than not, and the fights with your siblings over scraps are getting more intense. Mom and dad seem tense too. They've started snapping at you when you get too close during mealtime. It's not personal, it's just survival. The area around the den isn't exactly brimming with food anymore, and with so many mouths to feed, the strain is showing. One day, after another night of feeling like your stomach is eating itself, you realize what needs to happen. You've outgrown the den, the pack, and this patch of land. It's time to leave. You don't make a big deal out of it. One morning, you just start walking. You head away from the den, following trails you've never taken before. The first few days on your own are rough. You've got no backup now, and hunting solo is a whole different challenge. You miss more prey than you catch, and the hunger that drove you to leave your family hasn't gone away. It's just you now. No mom to bring food, no siblings to fight for scraps. Still, you keep moving. You've learned enough to know that staying in one place won't help. You follow the wind, sniffing out new trails and new opportunities. Sometimes you find something, like a field mouse or a discarded sandwich, but that's not quite enough. A few weeks into your solo life, you're starting to get the hang of hunting. You've managed to catch a few squirrels and even snagged a vole, but the effort it takes compared to the reward isn't exactly a winning formula. Then one day, you stumble across an unlikely ally, a badger. You're following the scent of something small and edible when you see it. You freeze, watching it closely. Normally, you'd steer clear because badgers aren't exactly known for their charm, and they've got sharp claws to back up their temper. But this one doesn't seem interested in you. You notice something interesting. As the badger digs the ground, small animals run out of nearby holes trying to escape. That's when everything clicks. The badger is doing all the hard work, and you could be the one to reap the benefits. You cautiously get closer to the badger. At first, it doesn't seem thrilled to see you. It looks your way, snorts, and goes back to digging. You hang back, watching from a safe distance. Then, as a ground squirrel bolts out of the hole, you pounce. Your timing is perfect. You've got it. The badger looks at you again, this time with less annoyance and more acceptance. It doesn't chase you off, and you take that as permission to stick around. Over the next few hours, you and your new digging buddy work as a team. The badger digs, and you stay alert, ready to catch anything that tries to flee. It's a surprisingly effective partnership. Badgers are experts at flushing out burrowing prey, and you're fast enough to catch whatever escapes. By the end of the day, you've had your fill for the first time in what feels like forever. By the time winter comes, you're ready to find a partner. Coyotes pair up for life, so this isn't just about finding someone to hang out with. It's about survival. You howl, and for a while, there's nothing. Just the wind and the sound of your own paws crunching in the snow. Then finally, a reply. It's very far away, but it's enough to spark hope. You follow the sound, running through the bushes until you find her. She's wary at first, circling you and keeping her distance. You do the same, sniffing the air and keeping your posture low, trying to show that you're not a threat. The first meeting is brief. She watches you for a moment longer before turning and running back into the shadows. You don't follow her. This isn't something that happens overnight. Over the next few days, you keep crossing paths. One day, she lets you get close enough to share a meal, tearing apart the scraps of a deer carcass together. After that, the partnership starts to take shape. You hunt near each other and move together everywhere you go. One evening, after a long day of patrolling and hunting, you lie down together in a patch of grass. Then, unnoticed by you, something small crawls onto your fur. A tick. It finds a spot on your leg, latches on, and takes its fill. You don't feel a thing, not yet anyway. After some time, a patch of fur on your back begins to thin. At first, you don't think much of it. You've scratched before, ticks, fleas, but this is different. Over the weeks, the itch gets worse. You lose more fur, and your skin starts to show through, red and irritated. The cold nights hit harder now, and every hunt feels just a little more exhausting. You've got mange. It doesn't kill you outright, but it weakens you. You're slower, hungrier, and more vulnerable. Still, you keep going because you have to. Your partner sticks by your side, though even she seems to give you a little extra space now and then. You don't blame her. One day, you're out hunting together. It's been a tough winter and food is scarce. You spot a deer far in the distance and instinct kicks in. You crouch and move quietly. Your partner circles around, her movements as sharp and practiced as ever. Just as you get closer, a loud crack echoes through the air. She drops instantly, crumpling into the snow. You freeze and look toward the source of the noise. A human with a rifle. You don't think. You run. Your paws slip on the snow as you bolt into the trees, the sound of your breath drowning out everything else. You don't stop running, not until you're far away, too far to smell her scent or hear another shot. Your mind is racing. She's gone. Just like that. In your panic, you don't notice the road ahead. A flash of headlights, a screech of tires, then nothing. Coyotes rarely live long lives in the wild. For most, death comes in 3 ways. The most common? Cars. Roads carve through their territories, and even the sharpest instincts can't always save them from speeding headlights. The second? Humans with guns. Coyotes are hunted and trapped across the country, often seen as pests rather than survivors. And finally, disease. Mange, rabies, and other illnesses weaken even the toughest coyotes, making survival harder with every passing day. You were no exception. You lived fast, fought hard, and adapted to every challenge. But in the end, the odds caught up to you. Life as a coyote might be rough, but there's another animal out there that has it way worse. Trust me, it's wild. Check out the video and see for yourself.